Into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Here we go on Locked In. It is a Thursday as we wind down another week. Week number 2 of the football drought. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios. The show brought to you today and every day by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Go check them out. Fantastic service advisors out there. Great sales staff. Low pressure environment. Obviously, the ultra reliable Buicks and GMCs. So if you're looking for a new vehicle, if you're looking to upgrade, or you just need service on your existing vehicle, you're going to want to tap in with Dorsey Jones Buick GMC out in El Reno. And if you want to chime in throughout the show today, do so via the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. Leading with special teams today, Grayson.
That's a first.
I don't know if it's a first. I think we actually did it last week when Mason Shipley was on campus. But for the second straight Thursday.
That's a second.
Second straight Thursday, we are leading with special teams. How about that? The Sooners have another kicker on campus today. Tate Sandell, formerly of the University of Texas at San Antonio. A road runner. He went 19 for 23 in 2024 as the starting kicker for the Roadrunners. 3 of those 4 misses came from beyond 50 yards. So, if you know nothing else about Tate Sandell, what you do know is that from inside 50 yards, he's pretty automatic. And I think if you're an Oklahoma football fan, at this point, having witnessed the kicker play that you have witnessed over the last 5 years, you'll take that every day of the week. If he's shaky from beyond 50, okay, whatever. But as long as he can hit from 50 and in, consistently, reliably, and you're not on pins and needles every time homie lines up to knock one through the uprights from 34 yards out, I think you'll take that.
Yeah, you'll take it. At this point, you're not looking for kickers that are going to be kicking on Sundays. I think that ship has sailed. But if you can get to a guy who can knock you in a 45-yarder when the drive stalls after a couple of first downs, and you go from not scoring points to getting 3 in a league where all you have to do is look at the betting lines. When it's these games that are between marquee opponents, the betting lines are within 5 points. A lot of them are 4.5, sometimes 3, sometimes 2.5. That makes a big difference when you can go get 3. So you're in a if you can get a guy like that, great, you're in a good spot. We're not asking you to boom one from 58 yards. But if you get a couple of first downs, maybe 3, all of a sudden maybe you get stopped behind the line of scrimmage, you get a holding call in the opposing team's territory, and your drive tanks because of it. Well, now I know that I can still get 3 points, and not everything has gone to hell for this particular drive. So you're a decent pickup.
Feels like you got to have Tate Sandell here because he just entered the portal last night. So this is very fresh.
Okay.
Very fresh, and Oklahoma has apparently already worked to get him to campus, which that's good news. At face value, you like that. But Grayson, it's kind of the same situation as you had a week ago with Mason Shipley. The conversation we were having about Shipley was, well, can you count on a guy of comparable ability becoming available if you don't get Mason Shipley? Turns out the answer was yes, because Sandell hit the portal. But the window for entry closes tomorrow. So at this point, you have to take what you can get. If for whatever reason Oklahoma does not wind up with Tate Sandell, odds are you're not finding another guy that was 17 for 18 inside 50 yards last season on the market. And so this feels like your last chance, your only chance, to add an objectively, solidly above-average kicker. And if you don't land him, then you just kind of got to take the leftovers, whatever that looks like. Isaiah Hankins, the Hensley kid from Coastal Carolina, whoever it may be. Tate Sandel's the best option. I would expect Oklahoma pushes very, very hard to make sure he does not leave campus today without signing a contract. David from Norman says, looks to me that OU worked hard to get this kicker to enter the portal. Kicker tampering? Kicker tampering?
That's some real desperation right there if we're tampering with kickers.
Or just well, no, you know what? Desperation is the right word because Oklahoma right now is desperate for an upgrade.
Come on now. You know I'm right.
They are desperate for an upgrade at that position, or at least a quantifiable commodity at that position because I've said it before, I think Liam Evans is going to be really good. But is he ready to assume the starting job in 2025? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not something you want to count on one way or another. We saw what we saw from Austin Welch at the Crimson Combine. It was not encouraging. There is a need to bring in additional competition, and there's a need to bring in somebody that you know can handle the job.
Let me ask you this, because I think I've seen this on the text line a couple of times in the last few days. If you think Liam Evans is going to be really, really good, and he's already been on campus for a year, why is he not ready now?
Well, I don't think it's a case of him not being ready. I think it's just a case of giving yourself an option in the event that he isn't ready. Because it's one thing to kick on the practice field.
Of course.
Right? It's another thing to kick in front of 85,000 people. Liam Evans has only attempted one kick in his college career, and it was an extra point, a meaningless extra point in the main game last year. And so you have to start somewhere. But once again, in a season that is as pivotal for Oklahoma as the 2025 season is, are you as eager to trot out a guy that has virtually no experience kicking at the collegiate level? You rewind to 2019, Oklahoma was a steamroller offensively. And so you didn't feel like having an unproven sophomore in Callum Sutherland or eventually an unproven redshirt freshman in Gabe Burkich was going to cost you too much if they weren't remarkably accurate for the position and consistent and put more balls through the uprights than they were putting outside the uprights. Can you afford to take that same gamble in 2025 with Liam Evans? No, you can't. Again, he might be ready. He might win the job in camp. If he does, great. But you cannot take anything for granted in a season where it would seem that everybody's job is on the line.
I hear you. No, and I agree with you too. It's just interesting that he's still at that point, excuse me, where he is a gamble, even though you've seen a lot of upside from him, which makes it interesting as to why he's not ready exactly quite yet. 3-star Chris in Chicago on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. His name is Liam Damn Evans. Chill out. Chill out. We just did this with Jackson Arnold last year.
Fair point. Fair point. 4-star Shark says, Austin Welch 2 Saturdays ago couldn't kick in front of 8,500. Yep, fair point. Past My Prime says, Parker was the back channel. He's connected at UTSA. UTEP is where I'm really connected. I do have connections at UTSA, but I was not the back channel in this instance. Sooner Bump says, afternoon, PT and pickle. I compromised to just one pickle.
We're not doing this.
100% not trying to be negative. But are we allergic to Power 4 transfers? Well, let's think about what Oklahoma has landed to this point in the portal cycle. Jaden Ott, Power 4 transfer and a good one.
Isaiah Satania.
Jake Michaela, Power 4 transfer and a good one. Ricky Lolohea, okay, that's group of 5. But he's not showing up with the expectation of being in the rotation or being a starter right from the jump.
Are we just isolating this to the spring portal?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you rewind to the winter portal, yes, Oklahoma did make several Power 4 additions, most notably Satania, who had a really good spring. But at this point, here's the thing. With the options that are available, and the options are limited right now in the spring portal, they're limited at certain positions. Lance Mason is probably better than any Power 4 tight end transfer you're going to find out there on the market, because if you go find a Power 4 tight end transfer, it's probably a guy that's caught like 12 passes in his collegiate career.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a chance on a guy that's caught 12 passes, or do you want to take a chance on a guy that's produced at an all-conference level in the FCS and is ostensibly ready to level up? It's a sincere question. I'm not saying there's a right answer. It's not rhetorical, but for where Oklahoma's at right now as a program, they're more keen on Lance Mason and what he's done at the FCS level, and they're banking on it being able to translate at the P4 level. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We don't know what the outcome of that experiment is going to be, but there's a reason they've targeted Lance Mason. It doesn't really matter where a kicker comes from. I mean, good kickers make kicks.
Yeah.
If you find a kicker who can make kicks, you go get him. And then at the other position where Oklahoma is still actively pursuing an additional transfer, that would be wide receiver. And once again, it's kind of similar to the conversation as tight end. There's a lot of parallels that you can draw there. Would you rather have a guy that's produced at the FCS level, or would you rather have a guy that's merely suited up at the P4 level? Because, sorry, it's not like you're going to be able to go out and get Micah Hudson, especially not with the budgetary constraints that Oklahoma has. And so if it's Jermichael Carter, or if it's a guy like Ted Hurst, the Georgia State transfer that just hit the portal yesterday, you bank on the upside. You bank on the guy's ability to take his game up a notch with the level of competition. And I think you have adequate reason to say that that can and will work. Giovanni Gibson came from Arkansas Pine Bluff, and granted, we haven't seen Giovanni Gibson do it on Saturdays yet, but it was virtually unanimous up until he got hurt in spring practice that Giovanni Gibson, at least it was unanimous from within, that Giovanni Gibson is the best wide receiver on Oklahoma's roster, pound for pound. So, you can find talent at that level, and you can find talent that's ready to take their game to the next level and ready to upgrade their level of competition. Oklahoma sees that potential in Jermichael Carter. That's their priority right now. If they do not land Jermichael Carter, then maybe they engage with a guy like Hurst. But if they can get Carter, they're going to call it good in the spring portal, as I understand it, and then I guess we'll see what happens with Keon Brown. He's a JUCO guy, so that doesn't need to happen like right this second if he's going to eventually wind up at Oklahoma. Let's see what else we have on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Chris from Knoxville says, wasn't Bauer Sharp an all-conference tight end when he played at Southeastern Louisiana? Yes, he was. He was. Anytime Oklahoma takes an FCS transfer, it does not matter how highly regarded he is. It does not matter what the film says. For the next decade, everyone's rejoinder when Oklahoma takes an FCS transfer that any of us are tempted to talk up, the rejoinder will be, yeah, what about Bauer Sharp? He sucked.
It's not that Bauer Sharp was just a disappointment. He was so bad. I mean, you can take a flyer on a transfer, and they may not be as good coming up from the FCS to the SEC. Like, okay, that's fair. Lord God have mercy, Bauer Sharp was horrible. I mean, that was a traumatic experience.
I'm going to say this quietly. Bauer Sharp wasn't that bad. He had some really bad moments.
Thune.
Listen,
come on, man.
Don't get me wrong. The lowlights were the lowest of lowlights. The twirling interception against LSU, the drop touchdown pass against Alabama, yeah, those were lowlights.
Couldn't pass protect.
Outside of that, was he that much worse than anybody else that saw the field offensively for Oklahoma last year?
You're not totally wrong.
I mean, he did lead the team in receiving, for what that is worth. Tattoo Baker says, remember when LSU posted a highlight and he dropped the pass? Yeah, LSU posted a Bauer Sharp practice highlight earlier this spring.
Yeah, they did.
Everybody was pausing the video, pointing out, hey, he actually dropped it. See, Jim, I agree with this text from Jim. Was Bauer Sharp good? No. But Jim's text was, Sharp was not bad. He was used wrong, and there's a lot of truth to that.
There is.
He was asked to do a lot of stuff that the tight end should just simply not be asked to do.
He also wasn't good.
Oh, Big Rich in OKC says, hey, what is the backstory to Grayson being called Pickle?
Because it's my voice in that Hey Pickle Pickle commercial
Nah.
that you guys probably will hear some point during this hour.
Denver from Indiana says, Parker, you have nuclear heat. Man, the offense situation set him up to fail. He's an athletic tight end, not meant to block number one edge rushers. Exactly. Put Bauer, and I have no doubt this will happen at LSU. Like, I think Bauer Sharp will have a decent season this year in 2025.
I do too.
I don't know how much they'll lean on him from a productivity standpoint at LSU, but I think he'll have a decent season because LSU won't ask him to do stuff like block Dylan Stewart, run tight end jet sweeps, or throw passes. They will just ask him to go run routes and get open. And if all he's asked to do is run routes and get open, I think he's a half-decent football player.
But also, just to play devil's advocate here, don't you think that they called those plays for him to throw a pass or to run a tight end jet sweep because he showed an aptitude to do it well, either at his previous stop or in camp?
He was a high school quarterback,
or that too.
That's probably why he was asked to throw that.
I mean, I feel like they didn't just pull that out of their ass for no reason.
And that's the story of how we spent half of our first segment talking about Bauer Sharp.
We did not spend half of it.
Folks, we will attempt to get this show back on track next. We are due for an opening timeout. Let's hit one, get a quick word from our sponsors, and when we come back, more OU football and recruiting talk. Hopefully, we will put the Bauer Sharp conversation to bed on the other side. You're listening to Locked In here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Hi, folks. This is Larry Knippelmeyer here at Knippelmeyer Chevrolet in Blanchard, USA. Conveniently located just 15 minutes south of Oklahoma City and 10 minutes west of Norman. With all the talk of inflation, market crashes, and tariffs, it's no wonder we're all afraid to make that new vehicle purchase. Now, with that being said, there will probably never be a better time to purchase your new Chevrolet at Knippelmeyer Chevrolet. No price increase or tariffs on our huge selection of in-stock vehicles. Pickups, SUVs, cars, and even Corvettes, all marked down and ready to sell. Interest rates are good, used vehicle trade-ins are high, and rebates and incentives are back on most new Chevrolets. So hop in that old vehicle and come see us at Knippelmeyer Chevrolet in Blanchard, where nobody beats our deal. Or give us a call at 405-485-3333 or catch us on the web at knippelmeyer.com. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Beats and Bites Festival is back again at Riverwind Casino, where good grooves and great food are on tap all summer long. Kicking off on June 14th with Josh Turner.
Would you go with me?
And Edwin McCain. Along with crave-worthy eats from local food trucks, there's something for everyone. Get your tickets online or at the box office for just $10. Only at Riverwind Casino.
Why don't we just dance?
That twinge in your knee isn't going to wait until Monday, and neither do we. At Orthostat, we've expanded, so you get better hours, better facilities, and the same great care. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Whether it's sprains, strains, fractures, or joint pain, from knuckles to knees and every joint in between, our same-day, affordable care gets you back to life faster. Visit OuchOrthostat.com to learn more.
Whether you're celebrating a special occasion, desire a great postgame, or after-work dining experience, the Ranch Steakhouse is the winning choice. At Ranch Steakhouse, we're grilling up the best USDA prime steaks in Oklahoma. Juicy, flavorful, and cooked to perfection. Pair that with an unbeatable atmosphere, a killer drink selection, and a wine list of over 400 personally curated bottles. Whether you're toasting the game or winding down after a big day, Ranch Steakhouse is where champions eat.
Is full of anchors, meant to keep you in place. But the good news is that it's also full of things that remind you not to let them. So every time you raise a Pacifico, let it be a reminder to live life anchors up.
My name is Corporal Bradley Joseph Seitz.
Jerry Reed.
Kate Weber.
These are real veterans facing a real challenge.
I have PTSD.
And I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder can happen to anyone.
I was still in a war zone in my mind.
But treatment can turn your life around.
Treatment has really saved my life.
To learn about PTSD and how treatment can help you, call your local VA medical center or visit ptsd.va.gov.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Oh no, Shannon Sharp. No.
Oh.
No. In case you aren't up to speed on the whole Shannon Sharp debacle right now, I know we have listeners of all ages, so let me try to keep this as family-friendly as possible. Shannon Sharp, who is 56 years old, has been accused of committing an illegal contact penalty by a 21-year-old OnlyFans girl. It's been all over social media for the last 48 hours. And Shannon Sharp posted this about half an hour ago. My statement is found here, and this is the truth. The relationship in question was 100% consensual. At this juncture, I am electing to step aside temporarily from my ESPN duties. I will be devoting this time to my family and responding and dealing with these false and disruptive allegations set against me. I plan to return to ESPN at the start of the NFL preseason. I sincerely appreciate the overwhelming and ongoing support I have received from my family, friends, fans, and colleagues. Shannon Sharp. The problem is the format in which he released this statement, Grayson,
was in an iMessage.
It's a screenshot of an iMessage of a text received.
Yeah.
Not a text sent.
Uh-huh.
I.e., his lawyer or PR rep or somebody texted this to him to copy and paste onto Twitter.
Yep.
And instead, he screenshotted it.
And
so now everyone and their mother knows that, Shannon, you didn't even actually write this.
But look, can we be surprised? This was a dude who somehow had a phantom something click his IG live while he was in the middle of activities.
I forgot about that. Oh, Shannon, come on now.
That's rough, man. Look, you know it's bad, but you kind of also know he might not have done anything. Did you see his first video that he put out a couple days ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you know he may not, and I don't know this for a fact, but you know he may not have done anything if his first defense was release the whole tape.
Yeah, that's generally not the first legal recourse that you turn to.
That generally does not put you in an advantageous legal spot.
It's so on par for Shannon Sharp, though. Oh, my goodness.
He said release the whole tape, and you're going to find everything you need to know that makes this perfectly normal.
As if we haven't seen/heard enough of Shannon Sharp being intimate on the interwebs in the last 4 months. Oh, my goodness. This is why at 56 years old, you just don't mess with women of this ilk.
But did you see the age of she's 20.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like at 56 years old, what are you doing, man? I don't know whether there were any crimes committed or not. That is for the legal system to determine. But what I can objectively say is that you put yourself in a disadvantageous position here.
Especially if you're a man with resources.
You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah. Did you see, real quickly, did you see all the comments under that video, though, that he released?
No, what were all the comments?
It was basically like you've heard his Lakers in 5 thing?
Oh, yes.
It was basically everybody saying stuff like that and then Shannon in 5 or Unk in 5.
Oh, Shannon.
What a character.
Luke says, enough Club Shay Shay. Where would y'all project OU ends up in the final 2026 recruiting rankings? Well, I think Oklahoma at this point in time probably going to sit at that 10 to 15 range nationally. 4 commits right now. Number 42 nationally, according to 24/7 Sports. They did make a new offer today. Let's dig into this. A new offer, not at tight end, where it feels like they're going to have to make another new offer or two at some point based on what happened or what didn't happen last night with Ian Premer from Great Bend, Kansas, who released a top 5 that included Kansas, Kansas State, and Iowa State, but did not include the University of Oklahoma. But they made a new offer today at linebacker. Going out to a guy that they've had on their radar for a while, a guy that camped at Oklahoma last year, did not earn the offer at this point, but picked it up today when Nate Dreiling dropped by his school in St. Louis, Missouri. 3-star linebacker Mason Martin. I'm familiar with his tape. Grayson, you are now familiar with his tape. What do you think of Mason Martin as a prospect?
Upstairs sticks out a ton. Smart guy. He's really smart, intellectual
That's
guy.
code for he's white, folks.
You know what? I quit. That's hilarious. He is white.
He is white. Yes, to be clear, that is true.
He is very much white.
But what you're saying is 100% accurate.
No, and
very
look,
intelligent.
No, but look, he is very intelligent, and he is also, I guess I have to throw this tag on here, he is very athletic. He is pretty athletic. He moves well in space. But the smartness sticks out is because he doesn't take false steps.
No, very quick to diagnose.
Yes, and that's the intellectual part of there. He's good in coverage as well, so he provides positional versatility if you want to maybe experiment with him at a cheetah, something like that, as a bigger cheetah against a team that if that matchup presents itself. But really good player. I liked him a lot. I think he fits in well with this defense. So that'll be an interesting one to follow. I know he's already got OV's book to Michigan State, Wisconsin, and one more, right?
Kansas being the other, yeah.
Yes. So it'll be a fun little road to go down, but he is a fun player to watch. I will say that.
Ground to make up in this recruitment for Oklahoma, no question about it, because they are playing from a few steps behind,
right,
timing-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're a school like Oklahoma, this is the luxury that you're kind of afforded. When you're one of the more historic programs in the country, you can dig yourself out of a hole, a timeline hole with a kid like this when you're competing against Michigan State and Kansas and Wisconsin. Now, if you're competing against Notre Dame and Michigan and Georgia, different conversation. But Kansas, Michigan State, Wisconsin, those are 3 schools that you can outpace, even if you are late to the table. So that is yet another linebacker to keep an eye on. And it feels like Nate Dreiling, Grayson, is building out a really robust board at that linebacker spot. Oklahoma made the top 8 for Adam Balogun Ali last week. They're obviously in pursuit, and I think in the lead for both of the Jandro brothers, Bo and Nico from Arizona. We mentioned Dejon Ackerson, the hometown kid from Putnam City. Doesn't look like they're going to wind up with him. But even so, a lot of options on the table. That weekend of June 6th through 8th for Oklahoma, think about all the linebackers that are on tap for official visits. Braxton Lindsey, Keenan Harris, Talanoa Ely. Although I'm not optimistic that one goes Oklahoma's way. Quee Beck from Carthage, Texas. Ja'Cory Smith from Little Rock, Arkansas. So many options in play here for Nate Dreiling and this Oklahoma staff at linebacker, which my thought on that is good, because this needs to be a heavy linebacker class.
Yep.
You need to have at least 3 high school linebackers. I'd say more ideally 4 in this class. Oklahoma hasn't taken 4 linebackers since the 2023 cycle when Taylor Heim at the very, very end made 4. But they could afford to take 4. They could do to take 4 this cycle. It's a shallow room as is. And at the end of this season, there's a chance you lose Kip Lewis. I guess it's not an automatic that you lose Kip Lewis. but you certainly lose Kendall Daniels. Jaren Kanak is now out of the picture because he's playing tight end. Kobe McKenzie, if he has a good enough season, he'll have a decision to make. Samuel Masigo is going to have 1 year of eligibility remaining. And there aren't that many bodies right now in that linebacker room. It feels like Oklahoma is more than due to reload. Gator on the text line says, no, Parker, lunch pail is code for what? There are a lot of code words, Gator. We all know them. First one in, last one out.
I feel like that transcends a little bit. Lunch pail normally doesn't.
Great work ethic. Positive locker room influence.
Hold on. What are you saying, Parker?
I'm just saying, like, that's the if are you on any message boards?
Very, very few.
Okay.
I'm on the I don't post on it, but I'm on the OU Insider boards.
Yes, there you go. And so if you I'm sure it'll happen with Mason Martin. I'm sure it's already happening. If you read the comments, anytime Oklahoma lands or pushes for or offers a white kid, it's always love this guy's mentality, great work ethic, lunch pail dude. First one in, last one out.
Yeah. Now, Luke hit the nail on the head.
Gritty, sneaky athletic. Yes.
That is the code. That's the code word right there.
Sneaky athletic. Coach's kid. Yep, come on.
A text from the 405. We all knew he was white when you said his first name was Mason. May I introduce you guys to Mason James, who I guess is half white.
A coach on the field. Slim Brady says, Parker, you just used one yesterday referring to Jake Krell. High motor.
See, I feel like high motor transcends, though, because
it does.
It does.
It does. But when it's coming from somebody that, and you see these types of people on message boards and social media, where they don't really study these players. They don't actually watch the tape, but they're trying to sound informed. And so those are the buzzwords that you'll see from people like that. High motor.
Yeah.
Hawaiian Sooner. A little wiggle? No, that's a Mike Gundyism.
That is.
Jim Rat.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
This 405 listener asks, who would you rank as the best linebacker recruit of the Venables era as head coach? Well, Lewis Carter's kind of off the table because he transferred. I'd have been real interested to see what case he could have made, what kind of case he could have made over the next couple of years if he'd stuck around. I think right now the answer is probably Kip Lewis. That would be the consensus answer.
Yep.
Among guys that could make a run for that title, Samuel Masigo is somebody that I'm very, very high on. And then internal reviews have been really, really strong on James Nesta, Grayson, a guy that doesn't get talked about a ton and didn't play a lot last year, but word is he's going to be seeing a lot more action this fall.
James Nesta, to me, is a wild card in this linebacker
Very
room.
much so.
Because if he can perform well and give you something in rotational snaps, now you've got more depth than I think we otherwise have forecasted. Now, if he doesn't, okay, cool, you're kind of back to where we think you are. But if he's really good, boy, oh boy, is he really good. I mean, I think right now he could probably give you what Jaren Kanak gave you on special teams, as at least for this year being a special teams ace, and then ultimately make you feel a lot better about the room going into 2026. Glenn from Nashville, blue collar.
Yes, blue collar. How did I miss that one?
Sneaky athletic and blue collar are the ultimate. We're talking about a white dude.
Oh, those are great ones. By the way, it's been mentioned several times on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, so I will address it. Oklahoma offered a linebacker by the name of Lehman yesterday. Reston Lehman from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 6'4", 230 pounds. No word on if he is a distant relative of our own Teddy Lehman.
I thought you were about to say no word on if he's white.
No, he's very obviously white. If you couldn't tell from the name, I'm looking at his photo right now. Can confirm he is white. So, yeah, I haven't got the chance to dig much into that offer yet, but that's another 26 kid, another 2026 linebacker that the Sooners have offered. Well, I guess I imagine that Oklahoma's recruiting him as an edge because Miguel Chavis was the one that offered him. So
You said 6'4"?
6'4", 230. Edge size.
That is edge
no
size.
doubt about it.
As a junior, too? 2026 class?
Yes.
Oh,
2026
yeah.
class.
Yeah, that's an edge.
So Miguel Chavis expanding the board.
I like that one. I like that one, and just from the measurables.
You like the blue-collar aspect of things?
I like the blue-collar, like, plus the measurables, man.
The sneaky athleticism.
See, I don't know if a dude that's 6'4", 230 qualifies as sneaky athletic anymore and plays defensive end.
Brad from Mustang says, sounds like Teddy is already planning for his KRF replacement in 10 years. Maybe so. Maybe so. Got to get him here first. Do a little research on what the feeling is in the Oklahoma camp on it. Reston Layman, and if they have a realistic shot.
Gunny says, I'd rather have a busy layman instead of a resting one.
All right, folks, let's take another time
Where's
out.
his hairline at?
Oh, my goodness. Let's
Jeff,
take another
Jeff,
time out.
you
We will return on the other side with more OU football and Crootin talk. Keep firing away on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line with all your questions and comments, 405-651-3439. Parker Thune, Grayson, Singleton here with you on the ref. The home of Sooner fans. More next.
Bleed Crimson? Love great Sooner talk? Join the Ref Army by downloading our free app. Toby and TJ, Plank and Josh, Steelman and Thune, and Teddy and Tyler. We have the Sooner experts. The Ref is home to Sooner fans worldwide.
What's up, Ref Army? It's Dusty Dvorak. Do you eat, sleep, and breathe football? KREF is the only place for the most comprehensive daily analysis of Sooner and college football. Catch me every Tuesday and Wednesday during the 10 a.m. hour of The Plank Show as I cut it up with Plank and Josh about everything in the world of Sooner and college football. That's every Tuesday and Wednesday on The Plank Show, and there's only one place to hear it. The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Download the KRF app today to listen from anywhere.
What are you waiting for? If you're anything like me, that question keeps you up at night. So don't wait for someone else's green light. Do the things you love right now at Moore Norman Tech. We'll get you out of the classroom and into the real world with hands-on experience and whatever feeds your fire. So get after it. Oklahoma needs more doers, and doers don't wait. Moore Norman Tech, powered by Oklahoma Career Tech.
We're celebrating Eskridge Honda's official grand opening with great deals. Drive away in a new 2025 Accord Hybrid Sport for only $329 per month. That's right, just $329 a month. Now during our official grand opening. Conveniently located at 89th and I-35 or online at eskridgehonda.com.
$329 for 3 years, 10,000-mile lease, $5,000 down plus TT&L plus first month's payment. 2.49% for 36 months. Cannot combine through AHF ends 4/30/25.
It doesn't seem possible, but we're celebrating our 50th anniversary at Markham's Nursery this spring. Back in 1975, our family started our business down on the farm in Washington, Oklahoma. A lot of things have changed since then, but the honest and appreciative way Bill Industries serve their customers hasn't changed a bit. Seasoned gardener or just getting started, we can help make your landscape or garden a success. Come celebrate our 50th with the folks who know how to grow in Oklahoma, Markham's Nursery.
Markham's Nursery, just add the sun.
Schumacher Law Group, when experience matters. Tracy Schumacher is a former prosecutor and former district judge. Whether it's a probate challenge, criminal charges, or contentious divorce proceedings, experience matters. The attorneys at Schumacher Law Group provide compassionate, knowledgeable advice, all while fighting for your best interests. Find Schumacher Law Group online at lawgroupok.com or call 405-701-1882. Hometown lawyers ready to fight for you when experience matters.
Data shows that after a child turns 9 in foster care, they are much less likely to be adopted. But the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption believes every child is adoptable.
Families, if you're able to let your hair down a little bit, there's a lot to learn from teenagers.
The clock is ticking for teens at risk of aging out of foster care. Learn how you can help at davethomasfoundation.org.
When students struggle because they are hungry,
or fall behind because they lack school supplies,
a caring adult can make all the difference.
especially someone from the community,
Someone who knows the students.
and the obstacles they might be facing.
At Communities in Schools, our site coordinators surround students with a community of support.
To ensure that they have everything they need to engage in learning.
We go all in for kids, all day, every day.
To learn more, visit communitiesinschools.org.
You wanted to be cool, which led you to smoking, which led to a pack a day. Then you met that special someone, which led to starting a life with them, which led to wanting to live longer, which led to quitting. Then you heard you may be at risk for lung cancer, which led you to getting a low-dose CT scan. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Final segment of Locked In here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton here with you. Hit us up on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. It's a conversation I've been meaning to get to, and I'll probably spin this up into a written story in the next couple of days, Grayson, but just evaluating where things stand in the 2026 class, and as we mentioned and discussed a couple days ago, seems like Oklahoma and Mason James, the very talented Norman North wide receiver, are trending in different directions right now. Here's my question. What happens if Taj Overton does not pick the University of Oklahoma? Because if Taj Overton, the very talented defensive tackle from Owasso, does not pick the University of Oklahoma, there is a very good chance, Grayson, that there is no representation for the state of Oklahoma in OU's 2026 recruiting cycle.
Yeah.
Whether or not Jaden O'Neal sticks in the class or not, does Jaden O'Neal even really count as a kid that didn't live in Oklahoma until 2 months ago? He's a California transplant. And so whether or not Jaden O'Neal is in the class, you wouldn't have any Okies in the class at that point. Everybody that Oklahoma is pursuing within state lines, like I guess an all too easy guy to forget about, and I'll admit I did forget about him there for a second, is Braden Presley at Bixby, whom Oklahoma would love to have. And apparently the internal opinion of Braden Presley at Oklahoma is very high. So I'd expect them to mount a charge there for his services. But outside of that, man, no Mason James, no Taj Overton in this hypothetical realm. No Dejon Ackerson, who trimmed his list to 3 earlier this week. Tulsa, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Excluded the Sooners. That's it, man. Braden Presley might be your only... Braden Presley and Taj Overton, as it stands right now.
Yeah.
With Jaden O'Neal kind of occupying that twilight zone of, is he an Oklahoma kid or is he not an Oklahoma kid? Semantics, right? But Braden Presley and Taj Overton are pretty much the only 2 guys from within state lines that Oklahoma is actively pursuing right now. This is a rarity when you look at the history of Oklahoma football and Oklahoma recruiting throughout the 21st century, that you would have this little Oklahoma representation in a signing class. Because I remember when Lincoln Riley was here, in the narrative, and it was a fair one, was that Lincoln Riley doesn't emphasize in-state talent. Lincoln Riley doesn't cultivate and keep those in-state relationships the way that he should as head coach of the University of Oklahoma. But let's look back at Lincoln Riley's classes, just for the heck of it. The class of 2018, Lincoln Riley's first class as head coach of the University of Oklahoma. 5 Oklahoma natives. Bray Walker, Patrick Fields, Ron Tatum, Jordan Kelly, and Jalen Redmond. 5 of them. Fast forward to the class of 2019. In that cycle, you had LaRon Stokes from Miami, Marcus Major from OKC, and that's it. So I guess right there, That might be the best parallel. 2019, you only had 2 Oklahoma kids in the signing class. 2020, you had Andrew Rain from Broken Arrow, Brendan Walker from OKC, and dang, looks like that's the only 2. 2021, Jordan Mukes from Choctaw, Ethan Downs from Weatherford. Those were your only 2. So for 3 straight years, Oklahoma had 2, exactly 2 in-state signees in their recruiting classes under Lincoln Riley. But like that was perceived as the absolute low point, if you will, as far as Oklahoma's in-state recruiting efforts. What if you only wind up with 1? What if you wind up with none? Like, that's on the table at this point.
A lot of things to think about that. I think for the older generation, that's going to look really, really bad.
No doubt.
I think the more traditional adhering part of the fan base, it will leave a sour taste in their mouth. By the way, rightfully so. I'm not going to say you're wrong for feeling that way. For people closer to my age who have grown up in this era, here's what our interpretation about this will likely be. State lines have been blurred now. You're watching, and really, geographical borders are blurred when it comes to sports now. The face of baseball is a guy from Japan. The face of basketball are 2 people from Europe. The best basketball player in the world is from Europe. So when it comes to football, yes, that is a more domestic sport. But with the way social media has proliferated recruiting, and also with the fact that the guy who's making personnel decisions now, being Jim Nagy, is a national icon running the Senior Bowl, and by the way, has no emotional tie to the state of Oklahoma or the University of Oklahoma other than the fact that he works for the university now. This is just a new era. And this is the way things are going to be. Now, does it look very, very strange that they have decided to completely divert paths with a guy right down the street in Mason James? That probably looks a little bit strange. Taj Overton is a blue-chip prospect who is not that far away, and you're not going to land him. That would look a little bit strange. But in terms of the entire, well, you've got to get guys from Oklahoma, that's no longer the case. The case is go find, make connections, build relationships with the guys that you can make, regardless of where they are. That's the new age of recruiting now. That's how things are going to be because of the proliferation of the internet, because of the advent of social media, and how that is used for recruiting. So in terms of people closer to my age, this is just going to be absolutely normal and nothing that anybody's going to sniff or look twice about.
The truth always lies somewhere in the middle, generally between 2 extremes, and I don't think this case is any different because, for one thing, look, whereas 30 years ago, Oklahoma was primarily recruiting from within the local radius, if not within state lines, just outside state lines. You can't build a championship team anymore with primarily Oklahoma. Like, I forget how many Oklahoma kids the Sooners had on the 2000 national championship team. It was a lot of them, right? And a lot of the guys that played key roles on that 2000 national championship team and the subsequent teams that went and played for a couple more national championships shortly thereafter, a lot of those guys were from the state of Oklahoma. The game has changed in that sense. You don't have as much of that caliber of talent these days in the state of Oklahoma as you once did. There's a higher concentration of top-end talent in the recruiting hotbeds like Dallas and Houston and Miami and Atlanta and what's another good example? LA, Phoenix. And so you're going to find more high-end talent in those regions. And moreover, the internet era, the internet itself has permanently changed the way that recruiting happens and the way that coaches identify and acquire talent. Use an example of a guy like Wyatt Gilmore from Rogers, Minnesota, right? Wyatt Gilmore probably never registers on Oklahoma's radar if he is class of 1994 as opposed to class of 24 or even class of 2004, right? Like, you're not keeping an eye on the state of Minnesota pre-internet era because it's a lot harder to do. And so, whereas I think the evolution of the recruiting philosophy and the shift away from an emphasis on primarily building a roster with local talent is just kind of commensurate with the way the game itself and the era itself has evolved over the last couple of decades. I also think, and there's a part of me that just believes, hey, look, you got a guy as talented as Mason James at Norman North. You got a guy as talented as Daniel McMorris at Norman North. Just go get him. Don't overthink it.
I'm
just
with
go
you.
grab him. But Jim Nagy makes a lot of money. A lot more money than you and I combined, Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
Probably everyone at this radio station combined. And so these are the calls that he and his staff are tasked with making. And I think you can appreciate the fact that he can come at it from a virtually emotionless standpoint. He's not going to have a tug on his heartstrings for any one particular kid over another. His sole concern is going to be finding the best 20, 22, 25 football players that Oklahoma should sign in the 2026 recruiting class to build a championship roster. Not handing out any freebie scholarships. And Nagy's not the one that's having conversations with these kids. He's not the one that's actively engaged in the recruiting efforts with these kids. And so that all the more enables him to look at things completely objectively.
He is completely objective in this entire thing because, again, there's no emotional decisions here. Like, he's not emotionally tied to the school. By the way, on the text line, I like this text. Sooner Lisa from BA, we recruited a lot of Oklahoma kids partly because those kids understood the OU-Texas rivalry. True, but guess what? This stuff isn't, by the way, that was in the Stoops era that she was talking about. That stuff isn't regional anymore. The OU-Texas rivalry is nationally televised. So anybody that you're going to get that wants to play either at Texas or Oklahoma, regardless of where they are in the country, as long as they didn't grow up under a rock, is going to understand the magnitude of the OU-Texas rivalry. So, and that's what I mean when I say state lines and borders are blurred now, is that everybody pretty much is the same. And also, here's the thing about the state of Oklahoma. Let's just be real. The state of Oklahoma is not a hotbed for, athletic talent at the Power 4 level. Those are your LAs, which is why it looks so weird that USC hasn't really recruited California well up until recent. Dallas is a hotbed. Florida's a hotbed. But the Oklahoma City area, while there is good talent, and I see it week in, week out when I call games, while there is talent in Oklahoma City, while there is talent in Tulsa, it is not the hotbed that some of the surrounding areas are. So you have to expand your board if you're going to field a team together. And there's a lot of things that have come together, whether it's recruiting being more nationalized and the fact that you just got a GM who was running the Senior Bowl and has connections far outseating Oklahoma. It makes perfect sense why you're going to start to see a team that is less and less native to the state of Oklahoma.
Western Okie Sky Chicken on the text line says, Parker, it's not about how many, it's letting the good ones from Oklahoma get away, like George Kittle that Tebow didn't even look at. Okay, a little bit of revisionist history there. George Kittle was class of 2012, which was several years before Lincoln Riley got to town, so that was not a Lincoln Riley whiff. But yeah, it does, and understandably so, it stings a little bit more when an in-state kid gets away from Oklahoma for one reason or another, or an in-state kid doesn't get recruited by Oklahoma for one reason or another and goes and winds up excelling somewhere else. But, I think there's a lot of truth to this text that we got from David from Norman, who said, you either trust Jim Nagy or you don't. It's just as simple as that. And from where I stand, Grayson, yeah, look, I certainly have my questions and I have my feelings about Oklahoma choosing to back away from a guy like Mason James and deprioritize his recruitment. But I'm willing to keep an open mind and reserve judgment because we are 6 weeks into the Jim Nagy era, and we have no idea. We have no idea what Oklahoma's 2026 class is going to look like. It may be one of the best classes in program history when it's all said and done. And even if it doesn't look like it on signing day, Man, it doesn't matter how it looks on signing day nearly as much as how it looks 5 years down the road in retrospect, because that 2023 class looked awesome on signing day, but right now, we did this exercise last week where we ran it down player by player. I think something like 16 of those 25 guys have since transferred from the University of Oklahoma. So sometimes a great class on signing day doesn't equal a great class on graduation day for all of those seniors once they're done at the University of Oklahoma. All right, we have much more to discuss tomorrow, and we'll be back here same time, same place to do just that. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of Locked In for Grayson Singleton. I am Parker Thune. Don't go anywhere. Up next, here on the Ref, the Home of Sooner fans, Teddy Lehman and Tyler McComas. Take it away. Stay tuned for The Rush.